Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be here with Florian to literally feed your brain with trends and disruption in the food and beverage hospitality industry. We are truly experiencing a revolution in the food chain. And this is pushed and led by startups. If we refer back to some of the things Dario shared with us earlier on, we will be sharing with you some examples of startups who have truly put things into perspective. If we look at hospitality and hotel, innovation is also starting by the way we approach the customer and the way we invite the customer in. We have a little bit of a situation with our press. Coming along?
It's coming.
Okay.
So
literally, changing the way we interact with customer is also a way of being innovative. And there is a Dutch hotel brand called Citizen M who have revisited the way they design their lobby and how they interact the customer experience at check-in. And that's truly something we see more and more. We will see a picture a bit later when things come along.
Definitely. So regarding the services within the hospitality, it's interesting. Regarding the restaurant, you've already have a lot of concepts, and in terms of design, and they've thought of a lot of things. In this field, restaurant disruption innovation will come from the use of new technology, and we spoke about 3D printing right before. Typically, for example, the first 3D restaurant just opened in London, where, in fact, the technology and the 3D printing will serve in enhancing the creativity of the chef and the food being served. Oh, there it is.
Okay, so it is, here we are, just a few pictures to kind of do the before and after. It is truly all about change, and that is happening in the food ecosystem, going from food health to the food tech, the food service, the food waste. In the food tech side of things, we have identified literally 6 main pillars, going from the farming, the transformation, ordering, delivery, eating, and reviewing. And we are going to go a bit in some details of some example for you on this. Starting with farming. On farming, we have got two very different examples. One with a startup called Big Wheelbarrow, which is an example amongst many others. What they are doing through technology is allowing to connect the local farmers with the local restaurant at large scale, because obviously one of the big challenges we have there is the logistic and people knowing what is available where. Agripolis are going on the vertical farming Dario was mentioning. What they are doing is using the rooftop of buildings, corporate and institutional buildings, and producing fresh fruit and vegetable, which will be then enjoyed by local communities. Transformation. There is also a lot of innovation in the transformation world as eating habits are changing. We all have seen our shopping baskets being different from 10 years ago to today. But there is also the need for more produce, more volume, and as we were talking earlier on, with product based on different proteins. So Jiminy's is one of that startup who have really specialized in the insects, edible insect as such. And we did also mention Upton Creek. If we are talking about the protein-based burger, there is Solient, who is very well known across the world nowadays.
So we just saw that production and transformation were evolving and changing a lot. It's all about bringing quality and new types of food in the future. I'm more going to go into details of the food service and try to give you an understanding of how innovation between the customer behaviors and what the different players in the F&B hospitality are at what stage they are, what they are lacking, and where the things are moving. So typically, if we look in terms of, we're going to look into ordering and delivery and going through the chain. If we look at ordering, and if I consider mainly the millennials, which is the most important part of the buyers currently and which will be more impacting lately, 60% of them are already booking restaurants online. However, currently, only 47% of the restaurants are connected and are selling themselves through such tools. For example, La Fourchette belongs to TripAdvisor, Book a Table to Michelin, and there's another one called OpenTable, which belongs to Priceline. There's a big gap. If you look at the hotel world, you all know Expedia and Booking.com, more than 90% of the hotels are connected to such marketplaces. And if we look at the restaurants, a lot of them are not yet online distributing themselves. So millennials are pushing forward, and there's still a big opportunity to grow there for innovation. If we look at ordering, then we go into what we call the click and collect and the delivery side of food. And this is a big thing which is currently booming. And currently more than 60%, so almost 70% of the millennials are using technology and delivery and click and collect through companies like Foodora and Deliveroo you might have heard of. On the contrary, on the other side, the restaurants, only 13% of them are connected and using such platforms to connect and communicate and sell themselves towards high engaged customers. We more or less did a study, and it shows that it will go to 20% in the next couple of years. Delivery is a big issue in terms of all these players, hence the reason why there's millions being poured and put into the market. It's the last mile delivery cost, which is really taking a lot of the money. And in fact, we're seeing plenty of new players and disruption and innovation coming there. For example, in Malta, you have a player called Fetchit, which is providing agnostic delivery of products within Malta. In Europe, you have guys like Stuart or Glovo, which are big companies which are completely disrupting the market and providing delivery. Most of the millennials are using delivery, and we see that restaurants are progressively using delivery. The interesting side of it is that these companies are disrupting and providing a clear solution in optimization of cost. However, companies are already launching themselves in order to disrupt this and bring more optimized operations. And so we already see robots appearing, and we see drones being tested a bit all around the world in terms of delivery of food, for example. So pizzas were tried in New Zealand, if you want to know. Eating, going to new experiences, still using delivery, which is interesting. So all these experiences I'm going to speak about are using services such as Fetchit, Stuart, or Glovo. These new experiences are impacting the way people eat, and the way millennials and we are going to eat and ourselves. So we have marketplaces which have been created, such as Tribe, which are marketplaces dedicated to chefs, independent chefs, selling their food in their local community and neighborhoods. Tribe is in London and Barcelona. It's booming quite well. We have startups which have been created, which are mainly 100% dedicated restaurants towards delivery of food. So for example, in France, you have a startup called Frishti, another one called Nestor, but in the US, you have one called Freshly as well. And this is completely booming, and they're doing, for you to understand, these guys only at lunchtime are doing more than 1,000 plates delivered on a daily basis. So it's amazing, and it's growing like hell. And on the other side, regarding delivery, we're entering the world of cooking kits, which is completely crazy. And it's amazing. It's very fragmented, and creativity is there. For example, in France, there are more than 60 startups dedicated to cooking kits. In the UK, it's the same. In Germany, it's the same. I did not check, in Malta, but I suppose in Malta, you have some cooking kits as well. So this is one of the big trends in terms of delivery.
In terms of new experiences, there is also new experiences relating to communities. And we have seen and heard just recently what Visit just purchased their American colleague called Eat With. The concept there is to literally go to somebody's home, somebody you don't know, and have dinner at their place. Time Out Market in Lisbon is doing a different type of experience, putting in the community some renowned chefs who are offering the possibility to have a gastronomic experience within a food court setup. We also have new technologies, and within the new technologies, robotic is definitely in the essence. Today's robotic costs less, and therefore it's something we can consider more. Giving you a few examples, Blendbo is one of a company bringing cocktails to the table for high volume consumption in a few seconds. Sally, the salad robot, is transforming and revolutionizing the salad bar concept, bringing super fresh and super safe solution. Captain Marcel, on the other hand, allows to have a full healthy meal any day, any time, utilizing the intelligence of vending.
And the last part of the food tech, one of the last parts, is that we're looking at reviewing, which is really important for all the players in the ecosystem. We clearly see that millennials, before deciding themselves, are using social media and looking at all the reviews, and it's growing, and it's more and more massive. And on the contrary, we just saw before that maybe restaurants and the F&B players were lagging and were a bit behind in terms of adoption of innovation. Regarding e-reputation and reviews, they're quite on top at the same time because they know this is really important for them. And so this is bringing new types of startups in the market and new types of disruption and new types of tools. So typically, Nable is one small company which is being launched, a startup, where in fact people, they collect the reviews before the guests get out of the restaurant. So it's going to be booming, hence changing a bit the quality, or not the quality, but the grade of the reviews which are going to be promoted for the better of the restaurant. Another startup which is quite interesting is in the video making, promotion of the restaurants online. You need to know that online currently mobile content, 66% of the mobile content is video being used and consumed by us all around the world, particularly by the millennials. Hence, All the Food is a startup creating videos for the chefs and the restaurants in order to promote themselves online. I could speak about Movely, which is going to be presenting a bit later in this afternoon, which is also in the online and video content. And the last part is that new startups are appearing in terms of metadata, hyper-personalized metadata DNA analysis, and startups like Travelcify are doing it for hotels and restaurants. I'm going to go now towards the food service. So we saw a bit the consumer-facing startups and opportunities and trends which were moving currently the food tech, food service, and nothing is possible if the restaurants do not muscle up their operations and start digitalizing themselves in the back office. And so we're going to look quickly in all the different fields of the restaurant's operation where plenty of things are happening. B2B can generate big money, and B2B is enabling restaurants to reinvent themselves and make more money and optimize costs. So restaurants will be using more and more solutions in terms of people management, such as Gopher, which is for extra admin, wages, pays, or culinary agents. They will be using startups like Culinary Agent, which is, let's say, a community, a bit like LinkedIn, connecting hospitality professionals. This is based in New York, for example. It's booming quite well. Other types of tools and solutions which are booming and which a lot of restaurants will be using, for example, sales management opportunities in order to tackle the pain points and the issues they're facing during their operations. OrderCube will be solving the ordering processes. Tiller System is a French startup which is providing a payment solution, cloud payment solution, POS solution for all the restaurants and which is booming. And a startup called like EasyIt is providing all the process for the operation systems for the restaurant. And we say that in 2020, more than 80% of the restaurants, at least in France, will be using such systems. Inventory management is another process where, in fact, restaurants need to optimize their costs, their delivery, their inventory, their sales, their recipes, and the pre-ordering processes in order to really know what they want to go. and optimize the cost. Restaurants is about sense business, and you need that kind of tool. So there's various startups starting to specialize in this and providing the full-scale opportunities, such as Food Me Up or Ideolis. Last but not least, purchasing and ordering management. I just spoke about Ideolis, which is covering the full scope. Here, typically, it's just to raise the question, a lot of companies are getting into the market, but there's one company which could take everything and could take the market clearly because it's already doing it on the B2C side and really doing it on the food for customers. It could clearly be Amazon. So it's a question, maybe in 2 years or 3 years' time, all the restaurants will be ordering in one click of a button all their food through Amazon. So that's one possible opportunity of disruption.
Food waste, we also touched that with Dario. I'm going to give you a few true examples of way of minimizing the food waste and creating the value within that pyramid. One of the way we see the most, and we are all quite familiar with, is composting, and we have got companies who are good at doing, at home and local composting at business level as well. On a more interesting level, people like GrubTubs, their idea is to provide animal feed at affordable price. And what they are doing is utilizing a small tub which are connected to ease the flow of the stock, the collection, and the transport behind. Feeding the hungry is obviously something which is a major topic, and a startup called Copia, their mission is to hack hunger, and the way they do it, it's maximizing the efficiency of the delivery and pickup point utilizing technology. Finally, we talked about those ugly fruit and vegetable, and it is indeed a big loss in terms of the farmers' income as well as for us overall. So today we do have more and more concepts where you can have fresh fruit juice and soups which are made out of those ugly fruit and veg.
So one thing we've seen with Laurence, because we've been working with a lot of startups since quite some years. Startups always think they can skyrocket by being B2C. They always have an idea by being B2C, and they can live themselves, their own lives, and grow and become a unicorn, which is fine. However, the reality is that most of the time, startups to scale, grow, and generate revenue, they need to work with corporates and bigger accounts. And they need to learn how to do that. So I'm going to, because implementation of their solution is key in learning, growing, and bringing revenue. So I'm going to give you 4 examples of how corporates work with startups. There's not one solution fitting all, but at least it's going to give you a clear understanding of what can be done. And if you want afterwards, we can speak about the details and what can be done. So for example, Accor Hotel is working with a lot of startups, but they decided to acquire completely new startups in alternative accommodation in a field they were not covering, betting on the fact that these startups will generate part of their profit within the next 5 to 10 years. So they've hired and acquired maybe five startups, I think, so far. Marriott Hotel, for example, decided through an incubator called Canvas to test concepts of F&B outlets within their own hotels. So startups come and they can test their concept to the customers in various hotels around the world. That's one way of doing it, which is really quite interesting. Metro Cash and Carry, which is a retailer, B2B retailer, having all around the world and working with thousands of restaurants and hospitality players. Metro Cash and Carry is investing in startups through an accelerator and helping these startups scale through BizDev opportunity they have with their own database of providers. Finally, Nestlé, which is an industrial player, has decided to get into the F&B and hospitality world. They were already with Nespresso, but there they went a bit upper the ladder, and they acquired a company called Blue Bottle, which is a competitor of Starbucks in the US on the high end, in order to secure their vertical in coffee making and distribution. So these are kind of examples of how corporates can access innovation and how startups can work with corporates and access to the market. I hope it was interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.